Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, it is afternoon.
Good morning, everybody. Wait, good afternoon. Sorry. It still feels like morning. Now, since it's a Sunday, we have far fewer people here than we did the other 2 days. So, well.
You're not coming to church? How dare they?
We're having church right here. You guys didn't know that, did you? Like, what? Yes, Sunday's a Sunday. Monster truck rally. Let's go. Gravedigger. Bigfoot. I'm so glad you guys are here. Wow, what a weekend. Have you guys had fun?
Yes, absolutely.
Man, if you have no voice and you're exhausted, you know you did something right. You know what I mean? Right? You're like, I did lots right. Oh, my voice is just shot. So, sorry if I sound kind of weird, but I'm going to try to lay low here, like just, we'll just have a nice relaxing conversation, and let's just kind of pick up where we left off. We can talk about any kind of, you have any questions about Star Trek, anime, voice acting, music, Star Trek, did I say Star Trek?
I don't think so.
Oh yes, and Star Trek. I just want to start off again by saying how grateful I am for each and every one of you. What a great weekend it's been. I look forward to this weekend so much every year because of all the great people that come and great staff. I love Houston. I lived here for 20 years, and so in fact, it was Houston that made me fall in love with Texas. I grew up back east, and then I followed a girl to Houston. But I really fell in love with Texas from coming here. And then I followed a girl in LA. That deserved 2 shots. And I never really wanted to be there, but I, figured I'd take one for the team, if you know what I mean. Like if you want the relationship. Anybody ever been in a long distance relationship? At some point, you got to close that distance, right? Either you got to go where she's going, or she's got to go where you are, because you can only do the long distance thing for so long. And so that's what happened. And so I found myself in LA, and I thought I'd be out there for maybe a year, maybe 2. Rented my home in Houston, go out there, be a good guy, And it didn't work out, but I ended up being there 7 years. And when I did our whole Star Trek series while I was living in LA, and by the time the 7-year came up and the relationship ended, and my first thought was, why am I still here? I never wanted to be here in the first place. I'm going back to Texas. So I had a lot of friends and a lot of work up in Dallas, so I moved to Dallas, but I couldn't wait to get back to Texas. So any event, especially Matsuri, I love being here, and you guys make it so special. Every year, it just gets better and better. So if I don't get to say thank you in person, like separately face to face, please accept my sincere gratitude and thanks for coming out this weekend and making it so special for me. I hope you guys had as much fun as I did. If you sound like this, then you may have had a great weekend. Yeah, right. Yeah, man, this morning, I think I sounded like Uncle Crow. That's what I sounded like. Uncle Crow was the morning voice. Yeah. Who's got a question? Who wants to start us off with some good questions? Yes, sir.
For my crew. Thanks. So you're known for a lot of roles. I think anything more famous than the many famous roles you have is just a huge quantity of voice acting you have done. One role I really like actually is a 2011 classic film, The Lion of Judah, where you
Oh my
were a raven.
gosh, I love that you even mentioned that.
Yeah. Is there going to be a sequel to Lion of Judah?
Yes. Yes.
It's called The Lion of Detroit. No, actually, you know, I loved that, being a part of that. I don't know that there's going to be any kind of a sequel or a follow-up. I would love it if there were. And you know what I remember about that? It was produced in South Africa. I've never been there. I would love to go there. In fact, last year, right, Squally? Last year, I got an inquiry about a convention in South Africa. And I thought, wow, that would be so amazing. But the director of Lion of Judah was from, what is it, Cape Town or Johannesburg, I think, are the two big cities that most people know. He was in one of those, and all of the animation and stuff was done there. And then we recorded remotely. But I loved it. That was such a sweet, sweet film. Thank you for mentioning that. Bless you. Question? Yeah.
Were you able to have your Topo Chico and tequila last night?
Wait, tequila? Is it tequila or vodka?
Vodka. Sorry, vodka.
Okay, I was going to say, I may have to go back to the store now.
It's some sort of clear liquid goes.
You know, you guys would think I'm an alcoholic or something, right? Because I make all these jokes about, you know, vodka stuff. I'm not. I just think it's funny. But no, I did not. I haven't. No, I will. No, my refrigerator. Let me tell you. Can I describe my refrigerator to you? Yeah. Let's imagine a refrigerator right in front of us, right here, right? On the top two shelves, Topo Chico. On the bottom two shelves, hot sauce. That's it. There may be a ketchup bottle in there. But that literally, we have racks of the hottest hot sauce, like XXX, burn your face hot sauce. Yes, oh yeah. So that's all that's in my refrigerator, Topo Chico and hot sauce. Yes, question? Hey! My Junpei gang. Dun, 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 dun. Question? Who's got the question?
It's great seeing you. So, I know you weren't able to make it to our panel on Thursday for Persona 3, and that was a bit sad because I would love right now to hear your very own Junpei's Believe It or Don't short story.
Oh God.
Please.
What?
Are you gonna make me improvise? Darn it! Who let this guy in? You know, can you help me?
Sure.
Give me some ideas.
Give us a story insulting Junpei just like how everyone
What?
else did.
There's a haunted house at the end of the.
Haunted house at the end of the street, insulting Junpei. Let's work with that.
Why would I want to insult Junpei? I love Junpei.
Is it funny enough? All the Junpei's Believe It or Don't stories insult Junpei.
No wonder I can't think of any. Why would I want to? I need to think about that. Now you give me a curveball, bro. And I have to think about that. But I will tell you, I do love Junpei's Believe It or Not. Question? Anyone back there? Luffy! Hey, buddy.
Big fan, but I know you probably get this question a lot, but for anyone trying to get into this industry, what kind of advice would you give them?
I'm so glad you asked, because a lot of people do want to know that, and so it's always great to cover it in a panel where everybody can hear the same answer. I was very, very fortunate, you guys, and I should probably say blessed. I mean, very grateful to have gotten in the industry when the industry was very small. Some of you, there are a lot of different ages represented in the room, but some of you may remember a time when anime wasn't that popular. It was kind of a niche, you know? It was kind of this little subculture. of people that really loved this thing from Japan, and it was a very specific genre. That was kind of when I got involved, because it was much easier and smaller back then than it is now. I've often thought that if I had auditioned for a studio 10 years, 15 years later than I did, I might not have even ever gotten cast in anything. Because now there's so many people trying to get into it. It's become so mainstream, and so many more fans of it, and so it's a lot harder. I'm sorry to say. I mean, that's probably not the greatest news, but it's called the truth. So I would be remiss not to tell you the truth. And the truth is that when I started, all of the voice actors that I know, and most of them even that you know by name, started off as actors, just actors. They acted in film, they acted in television, they acted on stage, they performed. That was what they did. A lot of them even have degrees in like theater and stuff. And then somebody offered them the opportunity to audition for an animated production. So all they basically did was acting in front of a microphone. That's basically what it is. So my first suggestion to you, if you're interested in getting into voice acting, is acting. Look for any opportunity to develop your skills as an actor. Anywhere and everywhere you can. Look for ways to develop your abilities in performing and acting. And I think I talked about this in one of the other panels too. Music, singing is a very helpful part of voice acting. A lot of voice actors, not all of them, but a lot of them also are singers or musicians. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Because if you sing a lot, you hear your voice and you try to control your voice. You try to control the pitch. You try to control the nuance. You know? Do you want to add vibrato? Or do you want it to be kind of growly? Or do you want it to...
Yeah, that's reason.
Oh, is this really?
Yeah, that's why there's no chairs there.
You got hit really well just now.
Did I?
Yes.
I didn't even feel it. Oh, I did. Sorry, did that scare you? I'm sorry. Are you ready? I was giving you a heads up. That was coming. Thank you. Thanks for that. Thank you for that.
That's a pretty bad thing.
Here comes the rain again. So things like singing help you become more familiar with your voice and what you can make it do. Like when you see a character on television and you try to imitate the character. You're working with your voice to try to make it sound a certain way, or a certain kind of delivery, like a certain kind of rhythm to a voice. There are so many different little subtleties, and anything you can do to develop those skills will help you as a voice actor. The second thing is you kind of have to be where the work is. You know, I mean, there are only so many places where voice acting work is done, and we need to distinguish between voice acting and voiceover. Voiceover is like commercial work, like announcer stuff, right? If you're suffering from hemorrhoids, call 1-800-226, right? That's voiceover, right? Right. And here's the good news. There are voiceover opportunities almost everywhere. Because if you think about it, any city of almost any size has businesses. And businesses need to advertise to get customers. So there are opportunities in almost every city of any size for voiceover. But voice acting is more, right, is more drama driven, it's more story driven, it's more character driven. And there are only a handful of places that you can do that. Houston, as luck would have it for you. Dallas, Los Angeles, New York, up in Canada. There are a couple of cities in Canada that do it. And that's the lion's share of it. That's most of the studios are in those markets. So you kind of have to be where the work is. And the third thing is, and we mentioned this, I think it might have been Friday, at Friday's panel. I never used to tell people this. I used to tell them there's only two things: acting experience and location. But I added a third one several years ago because I think it's probably, maybe even the most important. And that is determination. If you get discouraged easily, it's not for you. Because, I mean, I've auditioned, I've done 400 plus animated series of video games, but you know how many I've auditioned for? Probably twice that many. You don't get cast all the time. In fact, you don't get cast more than you do get cast. So, if you're the kind of person that gets like, oh, you know, I tried and I didn't get cast, poop, and I'm not doing that anymore, stupid. It's discouraging. Well, then you probably won't get many opportunities if you give up easily. I said this on Friday too, and I'm going to say it again because I think it's very, very relevant. Most of the singers, actors that you see on television and hear on the radio, they're not necessarily the best actors in the world or the best singers in the world. They're just people that wouldn't give up. They're just people that kept pushing and pushing. They took every opportunity they got, big or small. And I mean, there are so many stories of singers and filmmakers who could not get a break. I mean, people that have sung #1 hit songs, and they went and tried to get involved, and tried to get a record label, and the record label told them they had no talent. I told them, no, we're not interested, you're no good. Well, I guess the record label was wrong, weren't they? Or this person just kept going. They didn't take that discouragement and go, I'll never, you know, somebody told me I wasn't any good, right? You can't listen to that stuff. If you really want something, you gotta push for it. And you can't let somebody discourage you and take it away from you. I was just reminded of that scene in Back to the Future. Remember his dad? Remember his dad wrote stories? And Marty was like, I didn't know you did anything creative. Remember this? And he's like, well, why don't you, let me read it. Remember this? He goes, let me see it. And his dad goes, oh no. What if people didn't like it? What if they said I was no good? I just don't think I could handle that kind of rejection. Remember? And then Marty goes, you know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. One word of suggestion, of encouragement. Remember when he goes back to the present day and they live in a nice home and his dad's wealthy and they're all famous, you know, like nice clothing and oh, your new book arrived. Remember, and Biff is now cleaning his car because of that one bit of encouragement. So don't get discouraged. If it's something you have a passion for, go for it. And don't let anybody else take that away from you. If you decide to let it go, that's fine. It's your call. But don't let anyone else discourage you, okay? Question? Yes.
So I wanted to, what's your opinion on celebrity casting? You know, so celebrity casting.
Oh.
So you have these very accomplished voice actors. I mean, most recent famous example would be like the Mario movie. You know, like Charles Martinet didn't get a chance.
Yeah.
You know, people don't think that he can voice act, but you know, he's voiced everything from Mario to the dragon in Skyrim, and he still has it. You know. And
yeah, Charles is great too, by the way. I love him.
And then you have the you have the discrepancy between the West and the East. I don't know if they've had an East meets West or Fullmetal Alchemist. If you ever met the voice actress.
I have.
Yeah, like
Here.
Oh, really? Was that Monster?
Was anyone there? You remember that?
Well, like 5 or 6 years ago, they brought Romy Park, and she and I did a panel together and a signing together. This is great. I love her.
But yeah, basically, like, what's your opinion on that?
Well, my opinion on that is very simple. If you're the best for the role, you should get the role. You should do the role. Unfortunately, a lot of Hollywood, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I mean, they have run that business into the toilet. It is garbage, and people are leaving Hollywood, and productions are leaving LA by the thousands because it's so crappily run.
A lot of them are coming here now.
Exactly. Yeah. They're going anywhere but LA. One of the problems with them, one of the reasons for that is because lawyers run the studios. Not creatives, not people who make good creative decisions, but attorneys. And they look at all they care about is how much will it cost to make and how much will we make profit. That's all they care about. If they happen to luck into a really great film, like they create something that's amazing, and it's a big hit, and it's iconic, well, that's great, but they don't care. That's not what they're trying to do, they're just trying to make money. I don't like celebrity casting, because I'm sure there are people out there that will go see a movie just because some celebrity's in it. I'm not one of those people. I don't know if you are, but I don't go see a movie just because a person's in it. It might be a crappy movie. If it's not my kind of movie, right? Like, if I liked, I'm just picking some names out of my head, but if I liked Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then I see that he's gonna be in like some horror film, I'd be like, I don't like horror films. I'm not gonna go see it. I do like horror films. And Arnold is fine, but for example, that was just an example. I don't know how you guys are. How are you? What are you? Do you go to movies just because like there's a certain person in it?
Not really.
Exactly. Music too. There are people that there are certain songs that they've done that I love, but I don't know all their records. I don't know all their songs because I don't like all their songs. I just like a couple. So as far as celebrity casting is concerned, I think it's a mistake. And I also think that if you're transforming something from animation into a live action, the character should match on screen. For instance, I will never, ever, ever, ever get cast as Edward Elric in a live-action film. For plenty of reasons that are very evident. But, and I'll never get cast as Broly. You know what I mean? But because it's different on screen. But I actually sent Charles a message and I said, dude, I am really kind of ticked for you on your behalf. Because he's been Mario as long as there's been a Mario, And I mean, I think he would have been great. All of the fans would have been elated because it was a voice they've known and recognized since their childhood. I mean, I got nothing against Chris Pratt. He's awesome. I love that guy. But that's not the right choice. So that's my opinion about celebrity casting. Question? Yes. Oh,
look at the little guy. He's so cute.
Hey, look, he's 1-to-1 scale too. This is the only time you'll ever see Ed and Roy the same size, right there. What's your question?
Alright, so my question is, I know that you're a fan of Star Trek, but have you ever met anyone who is a fan of Star Wars, and somehow have you ever had a big debate between the teams, which one's better?
I love this question. You ready? I love Star Wars. And I love Star Trek. What did I say yesterday in the town over and over again? let live, right? You know what? They're two completely different things, y'all. Star Wars is fantasy. It's science fantasy, sci-fi fantasy. Star Trek is science fiction. In fact, doesn't science fiction usually take place in the future? Right? What's the line that comes on screen at the beginning of every Star Wars movie? A long time ago? Exactly. So I love Star Wars, and I love Star Trek, and you don't have to pick one. Anyone who ever says to me, Star Trek or Star Wars, you know what I say? Yes.
Good answer.
Question? Yes.
Oh no, I have to speak into this. I have two, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. One is, how do you come up with the voices for your characters? And of the live action roles that you've played, why haven't you ever had a larger role in your live action movies?
Well, I'm going to take the second question first, because I've never really pursued it. I just never have. There are people out there who print out headshots and they send them to agencies and they beat the pavement and they work the phones to try to get on-camera acting roles. I've never done that. Ever. Ever. Any roles that I've gotten on screen were just because somebody said, hey, I'd love for you to play this role in this film I'm making or this thing that I'm doing. I just never... I was always very pragmatic about entertainment, about the entertainment industry. Even when I was 23, graduating from college. And I played the lead in all of the shows at the college I went to. I sang all the time, performed, everybody knew who I was and my involvement in theater and music. And people would come up to me and go, yeah, man, so you're a senior, right? You're graduating this year? Well, you're gonna go to Broadway, right? You're gonna move to New York? And I'm like, no. Oh, you're going to LA, right? You're gonna move to Hollywood, right? Be a famous actor. I'm like, no. Because I was realistic. Because I knew even then, what I mentioned to you guys a little bit ago, it ain't necessarily talent that gets the opportunities. And that's really an uncertain, that's uncertain footing, you know what I mean? Like, you could do it, and if you really wanted to, go for it. But I didn't really have that fire to be famous, or to go become a Broadway actor or a film actor in LA, so I never really pursued that. In fact, one of the reasons why I'm so fast to give God the credit and the glory for everything that has happened in my life is because I didn't pursue it. I didn't do it. A door opened. I stepped through. I had no idea what was going to come of it. And a lot of wonderful things came of it. So I never really pursued it. That's why I've not done more of that. I have been asked, I actually am going to be working on a couple of live action films coming up very soon that are being developed right now. One, I'm even going to tell you the title because it's so cool. It's called Possum Kingdom. Do you know that name? Anybody? You do? What? Yes! It's a place, it's in Texas, isn't it? It's a place in Texas. And it's going to be this super cool, like creature B-movie, like fun. It's going to be so fun. Yes, me too. Me too. So that's coming up, and I've got a couple of other things. First question, how do you come up with a voice for a character? There are typically 3 different influences in what a character ends up sounding like. The first influence is the original Japanese actor. What did he do? What foundation did he lay with his performance? The second one would be the director. What is his vision for this character? What does he want him to be like? Or her? What does she want him to be like? The third one would be the actor himself and the ideas that he brings to the table and says, oh, what if he was kind of like this? So it becomes kind of a what's the word? Not a group effort, but a
Collab.
collaboration. Thank you. It becomes a collaboration. Now, I will tell you something that a lot of people don't know, and I think it's very interesting. Oftentimes, when a Japanese company sells you the license for an anime, oftentimes they just let you do your thing. You give them the money, they give you the license for 10 years, and they give you the materials, and all they care is that they made the money that you gave them for the license. They don't really care who you cast. They don't really care how popular it may be. It's your deal. You do your thing. However, there are other shows that are very high-profile shows, like Full Metal, or One Piece, or Naruto, or shows that had a big following in Japan that are very, very popular, and the directors and the creators of those shows in Japan care very deeply about how those characters are represented in other languages. So a lot of Japanese studios, when it comes to those kind of shows, part of the contract will say, we get to have final say in who you choose to play these roles. So what will end up happening is the studio will collect 10, 15, 20 auditions, and they'll send them to the Japanese company. And then the Japanese company will send back the top 3. Or maybe even one, that we want this guy. Sometimes they want it to sound as much like the original as possible. Sometimes they're not as concerned. Thank heavens, Full Metal, they weren't insistent that a girl play Ed like Romy played in Japanese. The Japanese Aniplex wanted Ed in English to be more male. So, lucky me, they cast a guy. A lot of girls auditioned for Alphonse. A lot of famous, well-known voice actresses that you know auditioned for Alphonse. And it was just lucky that we talked about yesterday, that Funimation had this little boy named Aaron Dismuke, who was 12 years old, but he was a really great little actor, and he could read really well for someone his age, and they cast him. So actually, two boys played 2 boys. But that's not normal. But Aniplex chose the main actors. Funimation collected auditions and sent them there, and then they sent back who they wanted to play the roles. So that's the input on the voices, on how you come up with a certain voice. You look at a character, like as an actor, you'll go into the studio and you'll look at this character, and you get a vibe, right? When you see a character, you get a vibe. What does his character look like? What might he sound like? Kind of what would his personality be like? And then you make up something. And the director may say, okay, let's lower his voice a little bit. And then you try it again. And the director says, okay, that's better. Make him a little rougher around the edges. Like not quite so smooth and articulate, you know? Or what if he were a little more nasally? You know, I mean, and you dial in what you want. Now, here's something fun that you might find interesting. When you're recording a long-term series with a lot of episodes, you don't record them all at the same time. You'll record a few episodes, and then you'll leave until like a month or 2. You'll come back and record the next few episodes. Well, there's a big problem if you do a lot of voice acting, is that in that period of time, you totally forgot what you did with this character. You don't remember what he sounded like. You don't remember what you did. But you need to, right? Because it needs to be consistent throughout all the episodes. So the studios will do, in the very first episode, the studios will do something. They'll take some of your lines that you recorded from the first episode, and they'll keep them in a folder as a reference. So when you come back 3 months later, and you go, who am I again? And what does he sound like? They pull out the reference lines and they play them for you, and you can hear them and go, Oh, and they'll often say, repeat what you hear. And you'll hear in your ear, you know, I'm the Full Metal Alchemist. And then I'll go, I'm the Full Metal Alchemist. Just to dial in and remember what that character was like. Questions? Yeah.
So out of all of the voices you voiced...
You have a great voice.
Thank you.
Get it closer, I want to hear more.
And all of the ones that have challenged you, like Broly and the Digimon that you mentioned yesterday, and the ones that totally pushed you to the brink of your voice. What you do to keep your vocal muscles intact and healthy and not overstress them, and what kind of practice might you do to make sure your vocal cords aren't shot?
You make me sound much more efficient than I am. Truly. A lot of people just go in and scream like murder, right? And it sounds great, they recorded it, they had great performances, and they can't talk for 3 weeks. I'm one of those kind of bozos.
You know, I go in and I let it rip, you know? And this is what happened with Broly.
Like, I didn't even know what Dragon Ball Z was. Funimation called me and said, you want to play a role in Dragon Ball Z? And I said, sure. What's Dragon Ball Z? I didn't know, I didn't care. I liked acting, I liked voice acting. So I go up to Dallas to play Broly in movie 8, Legendary Super Saiyan, and I went, full on. I let it rip. I'm screaming bloody murder, I'm yelling, and within about an hour I sounded like this. And we had to stop. And they're like, okay, you need to go home and come back in a week when your voice is back. I'm not kidding, because I wanted it to be good. And that's something you gotta do. You gotta let loose. You know, you can't be shy. You can't be timid. You know, when a transmutation has gone wrong and your arm is being ripped off, ow! That's not gonna do it, you know? So you sacrifice some larynx. I even mentioned yesterday, I used to have a much clearer, higher singing voice than I do now because of all the yelling and screaming for 20 years. But some of the things that you can do, number one, and I know this is pretty self-evident, shut up. Stop talking. Let your voice rest. Number two, drink lots of water. Water is your friend. Water is your friend. Water is your friend. My assistant down here was very dehydrated yesterday, and she's the one who's constantly telling everybody to hydrate. So I'm just kind of teasing her a little bit. If you see her, give her a bottle of water. But those are the main things. And you have to know your limit. I don't know mine. Well, maybe I do after 20 years, but I'll give you an example. After we came to realize how taxing Broly was going to be on the voice, and I would go back and do video games over and over, we started a new formula where we would record for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then we'd take a break for 5 minutes. So I'd go into the studio and I'd scream Kakarot like there was no tomorrow, right? And I'd yell and scream and bloody everything, you know, kill you, rip your face off, you know, bathe in your blood, blah, 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 monster, demon, all of it, right? And then we would take a pause. And I would go out, drink a little water, warm water, and you just let your voice relax. It's like working out. You go to the gym, right? And you do reps. You do 12 reps. That's about all you can get. And you sit it down, and you what? Let your muscle rest for a minute, and then you pick it up and you do another one, right? But if you do too many, you could strain your muscle. So your voice is the same way. So we started doing that with Broly. We would record for 10 minutes and then we'd rest for 5. Record for 10, rest for 5. So that it didn't get to the point where it was gone, it was shot, and I had to come back or didn't sound the same. Question? Yes?
Has there ever been a time when you felt that you no longer remembered your own voice?
Wow. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So,
He's got a great voice too, right?
Yeah. Thank you. I lost it at rave a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
She was at the rave.
Might have seen me in my succubus cosplay. A little bit. Anywho, what I mean is that with all the voice acting that you've done over the years, has there ever been a time where you felt that with the voice acting that you lean more into speaking like that character?
Oh.
Or forgetting how you normally would talk?
That's a great question. Do you know how many questions I have been asked in 20 years of voice acting and 1,000 conventions, and no one's ever asked that question? I always get kind of excited when I hear a question I've never heard. My answer to your question, what's your name? Hi, Grace. Nice to meet you. My answer to that question, Grace, is there's part of me in every character. I would even dare say that the character is not so much, it's the character affecting me as much as it's me affecting the character and bringing like my ideas and my thoughts, the emotion, the inflection, to the character. In fact, I would say any good voice actor would look for opportunities to do that, because that's honest. If you can tap into your own emotions, if you can tap into personal things, then your performance is going to have more depth and more honesty. I know some voice actors, and I will never say their names out loud, but it's just a paycheck for them. And they literally, they'll bring a stool a bar stool into the studio, and I'll just plop down with a magazine or checking their email and looking at their phone, and then they'll hear in their earphones, boop, boop, boop. Hey, don't go in there. You just dial it in. I'm not sure, but I think you can tell. I think that people can tell when an actor is really invested in the role or when they're really not. They're just kind of saying the lines. So I think it's very important that a part of you be in all the characters somewhere. I sound like a lot of characters because that's me. So people are like, oh my gosh, I hear Edward Elric. Well, sometimes if I get excited and, my voice gets a little higher and maybe even a little raspier. But the goal is not to change your voice with the character. The goal is to play the character honestly, right? We've talked about this in other panels as well. Some voice actors have amazing range. Like, you don't even know that, like, that he was that guy and he was also that guy. Like, oh my gosh. Pardon?
Mel Blanc.
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of voice actors who can do that. I'm not one of them. I think I have kind of an, what's the word? Recognizable voice. And one of my favorite things in the world is when people go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was you. That's one of my favorite compliments, because you want to kind of disappear into the character. You don't want them to be watching Tamaki and be thinking they're hearing Edward Elric. You know what I mean? You don't want that. You don't want them to be watching Broly and think they're hearing Sabo, But here's the thing, the characters are different. The goal isn't to change your voice, the goal is to play the character. So while I'm not a master of 1,000 voices, as an actor, you try to perform the personality of the character. You could take one line from Tamaki, and one line from Ed, and one line from Dark, and one line from Zero, and one line from Sabo, and one line from Obito, and one line from, and you could string them all together, and you could listen to it and go, oh yeah, that's the same guy, clearly. It's totally the same guy. But if you watch all those shows, the characters are very different. And that's the goal. Not to change your voice, but to change the character. Play the personality of the character. Yes, sir?
So this will be a bit of a change of pace. I'll try to project because this is theater.
You don't even have to project, because I'm bringing it to you, bro.
I'll be brief as possible. So I'll start with an example. My favorite lesson from all of Star Trek comes from an episode in The Next Generation called The Drumhead. And it's about this political trial that Patrick Stewart's character, Jean-Luc Picard, gets wrapped up in.
Okay.
What do you think is the greatest lesson of any episode of Star Trek or any medium?
Oh my gosh, great question. Another great question. Okay, I'm gonna go deep. You ready? You're like, oh no, not again. One of the things that makes Star Trek so endearing, one of the main things I believe that made that show so successful and so the longevity of the show is that Gene Roddenberry's idea of the future was that humanity got past all their petty garbage disagreements and unified as one race of humanity and ventured into space to explore and meet other races and planets and beings. It's a beautiful, beautiful idea, isn't it? I was doing an interview and somebody said to me, do you think the Star Trek, the future that Star Trek projects, do you think that's gonna come? You know what I said? Nope. Not as long as people are selfish. Not as long as people are self-serving, mean, arrogant, hurtful, wanting this, and I want this for me, and I want this, and I need this, and give me that. I deserve that. There will never be a future like Star Trek as long as there are greedy, selfish, self-absorbed people in the world. I'm sorry, that's unfortunate. And you know what's really sad is if you go and look at a list of like the top movies of all time, so many of them are wonderful, uplifting, positive films, because that's what I think people want. There's enough crap in your normal life, am I right? Do you really need to make movies about crap? No, you want to escape the crap. You want to dream big, and you want to imagine something large and grand and beautiful and hopeful. But they just keep making them more trash. And I think it comes from here. I mean, it ultimately comes from here, y'all. Everything you ever watch, everything you ever read, everything you ever listen to starts in somebody's heart. Think about that. Before they ever recorded one word of a song, or before they ever shot one piece of film, they had an idea. And that idea either comes out of a place of, I want to inspire people. I want to encourage people. I want people to dream big. Or, I'm a pervert and I want to make perverted stuff. I want to preach I'm sorry, it's the truth. I want to preach my perversion to the world. I want to celebrate my creepiness. I want to celebrate my perverted idea of the world and make movies that celebrate violence, drugs, hatred, evil, pain. I mean, we have to deal with that stuff in our daily lives because that's just the world we live in. But we're going to have to keep making movies about it and celebrating it. I think people would love to see more uplifting things. And I think that's why some of these little movies that get made on like $5 end up making millions. Because people want something uplifting. Sorry, big soapbox. Sorry. Ooh. Who asked that last question? Oh, you did, right? Okay, I want to mix it up. Boy, girl, boy, girl. I love you, but you asked one yesterday, so let me grab somebody new here first. Yes.
Hello, I met you yesterday.
Yes.
Hello.
Nice to see you again.
Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway,
You salted me.
How dare you?
That was a joke. To make a point. Go ahead.
Anyways, thank you for signing the picture. Oh, my pleasure. Honestly. As a thank you, I also brought a gift for you. Because you, oh my God, you signed. I wanted to give you my own headshot, you know? You know?
Oh my God. You know what this says? Flowers for my Vicky Winky. If you come to my table after this panel, last chance to get the autographs or anything signed, I'm going to sign it Vicky Winky. And only you will know why. Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you. Oh yeah, that was Friday, right? Yes. I love it. Thank you. I will keep this forever. And this guy's immortalizing right here. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. My sister will appreciate a photo that she likes from a lot. And she's sister, so.
Give it up for this young lady. Let's see, guy, girl.
Yes, you'll be next, okay?
I was just curious, when you're doing dubbing, do you rather work with less voices, so you're working at the beginning, so you get to kind of set the pace of the scene?
Oh, what a great question.
Or do you like working later when voices are already incorporated?
Dude, that's a great question.
That's a great question. Because they both have pluses and minuses, right? It's really cool to be the first one to record because you can kind of, you've got a lot more flexibility with how you want to perform the lines. However, you don't hear anybody else. So you don't get to feel, you don't get to hear that character talk to you, and you're not talking back, and then they're talking to you. So you can't create that moment. So that's the downside. On the flip side, if a lot of other people have already recorded, and you come in and you're one of the last people to put your voice in, you have the benefit of hearing everybody's voices, and you feel like you're in the show, and you're talking with people, and they're talking back with you. But the downside is, often you have to make certain choices vocally because of what they already did, which is not always fun. Because you might look at a line on a script and go, oh, I know how I want to say this line. I know I want to do this line. And then you hear the person who spoke to you right before your line, and your idea is not going to work. So there are pluses and minuses to both. What do I prefer? That's tough. I don't know. I love being able to hear other people's performances. It's inspiring. and it helps you get into it better. But I really love the flexibility of being one of the first ones to record. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, they both have their pluses and minuses. Yes.
You told a story about like how, when you were younger, you got like some heat for being into like more nerdy things.
Oh yeah.
Like Star Trek or Star Wars. I can kind of relate to that because I like fantasy, and where I come from, being into that was kind of frowned upon. Like I remember all the rumors about like, oh, you like Dungeons and Dragons, you're trying to like sell demons and things like that. So like, how long did you have to deal with that?
Well, the good news for all of you is that it's now cool to be a nerd. Right? Woo! I mean, honestly, like, I feel like there are a lot fewer people that get made fun of because they like Avengers or anime or whatever, fantasy.
I remember all the stories you told about people coming up to you saying that, people would tell them that, oh, God doesn't like you.
Oh yeah, yeah. And why do they do that? Like, what do you get out of that? You know what I mean? Exactly. Leave people alone. Let them like what they like. So let me ask you a question. So let's say I'm gonna just play out a scenario here, okay? I hate this girl. But it's not enough that I hate this girl. I want him to hate her too. So I start telling him mean things about her to get him to hate her too. You with me so far? What do I get out of that? Nothing. How does that serve me? Nothing. It does nothing. Serves no purpose. In fact, it's hurtful. It hurts her, certainly. It hurts him, because now he's got this garbage in his brain. I fed him this negative garbage, and now he thinks something about her. She doesn't deserve that. And I certainly don't get anything from it, because I'm just spreading this hurt and this negativity. Why do people do that? Like, what do you gain from it? Every time I see something on the internet, and I try not to, but every time I do, I sit there like this. And I think to myself, what the hell do they, what do they get from this? Why are they doing this? What do they want? You know what I mean? What's the point of it? And make me out of this and that, or this person, this and that. What do you want? What are you going for? Attention? Maybe attention. Sympathy? You know what I mean? It's like, why? I don't understand why people do that. Like, it's not enough for you to have an opinion. Excuse me. It's not enough for me to have an opinion. You have to have my opinion too.
Control.
Exactly. And control is an illusion, guys. It's an illusion. The older people in the room will tell you so. When you're young, you think you can control this and fix that and handle that and manipulate that, and you come to find out over the years, yeah, you don't really have much control of anything. You can hope for the best, you can put your best effort into something, you can try your hardest, but ultimately, you have very limited control, especially if there are other human beings in the mix. Because guess what? They want control too. And you can't both have it, right? In fact, nobody can really have it. And human beings are unpredictable, right? I was talking to a guy on the way up here. I know, I'm out of time, aren't I? I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. Can I just finish this thought? Thank you. Yeah, it's right at 2 o'clock, so I'll just take a minute. I was walking up here with someone, and they were telling me how they had just, a relationship that they were in with a girl just ended, like yesterday. And I'm not going to point them out or anything, but we were walking up to this panel, and they were telling me about this. And I said to them, well, you know what? Every relationship you ever get into is a risk. You have to take a risk. to open yourself up to meeting, knowing someone else, getting to know someone else. And if you put up walls, then you're never going to have a deep relationship. If you're too afraid or you're too scared to let anybody in too close. But the thing is, you can't control other people's behavior. I could like this young lady, and she may like me back, but if she decides she doesn't, what can I do about it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going through her mind. I don't know what her past is like. I don't know what things happened in her life any more than she knows what happened in mine that makes us all unique, different people. You can't control other people, so you might as well just not even try. Just be the best you that you can be. Can that be let's make that the period at the end of our panel and our weekend together. Be the best you that you can be. Stop trying to change other people. Stop trying to hurt other people. Stop trying to make other people do what you want and say what you want and believe what you believe. You just be the best you that you can be and leave other people alone to be them. In fact, encourage them to be better. You know, that's the greatest thing. I love you guys. I'm heading down to my table for the last couple hours before the show's over. So come down and say hi and get an autograph from Vicky Wiki. Take care, guys. I love y'all.